Kim Mi-kyung is a potato researcher at a food company. She is responsible for research, promoting new varieties to villagers, and even managing the purchase of potatoes. Kim Mi-kyung bargains with the villagers, but talks break down over a 10 Korean won budget disagreement, leading the villagers to disperse. Angered, Kim Mi-kyung curses loudly, wishing for the company's downfall, especially since it skimps on buying potatoes despite being the yearly champion in potato chip sales. At this time, the company president is signing a deal to sell the company. So Baek-ho from Wonhan Retail Strategy Planning Department, a handsome man, intervenes. Accused of barging into the office unannounced, So Baek-ho reveals that the president's contract partner is a fraud, running a shell company that leads acquired companies to bankruptcy. So Baek-ho presents two options to the president: merge with Wonhan Retail to save the company, or believe the fraudster and watch the company collapse. The president chooses the merger to save the company. Meanwhile, the potato researchers, unaware of these events, joyfully sing and welcome new employees until they receive a call that the company is going bankrupt and the buyer is Wonhan Retail. This is a double blow for Kim Mi-kyung, who previously worked at Wonhan Retail for 6 years and left on bad terms, considering it a nightmarish place. After successfully negotiating, So Baek-ho returns to Wonhan Retail, but faces hostility from a dismissed employee. Despite concerns for his safety, he calmly handles the attack and tricks the aggressor into a locked room where his special forces training becomes evident. After the acquisition, the Potato Research Institute members, led by Kim Mi-kyung, dress up impressively to make a statement at Wonhan Retail. They face mockery and doubt about the necessity of their institute at Wonhan Retail's HR department. Kim Mi-kyung passionately defends their work, explaining that they do not just study how to make tasty potatoes, but also develop new varieties, monitor seedling growth, and work to improve potato quality and yield, positioning them as a leading organization in Korea's agricultural sector. After a brief educational talk, HR takes photos for their IDs, and the researchers pose assertively, determined to make an impression. They successfully receive their employee IDs, but when inquiring about the future of the institute, the HR coldly states that it is up to the company to decide. The minister received a call that Wonhan Retail staff were conducting a surprise inspection at the institute. Everyone panicked and rushed back but found their employee cards couldn't open the gates. Kim Mi-kyung had no choice but to crawl out. Just then, several Wonhan Retail managers walked in, and Kim recognized the leader as her ex-boyfriend. To avoid being seen, she quickly ducked down. After they left, she continued crawling out. Just as she was escaping, a colleague loudly called her name. Her ex heard it, turned back, and called out to her. Kim looked at her ex, felt anger, flipped him off, and stormed away. 7 people hurried back to the institute to find a man inside inspecting. The female colleagues were initially dazzled by his handsome face and swooned. However, when So Baek-ho criticized the expired tea and wasteful paper use, their fondness vanished. Kim and So Baek-ho argued, stating that even if the institute belonged to Wonhan Retail, a surprise inspection wasn't justified. So Baek-ho argued that given enough time, they would only cover up issues, which isn't an inspection but a planned cover-up. As So Baek-ho prepared to leave, Kim and her colleagues leaned on the railing, reflecting on his handsome appearance but disappointing character. Thinking he couldn't hear, Kim angrily wished something would hit his head. Unexpectedly, a magpie swooped down and pecked at So Baek-ho's head. As he was still reacting, the bird attacked again. Kim rushed down to stop it, while So Baek-ho ran into the woods. Kim called the magpie's name and chased after So Baek-ho to stop him. But it was too late. He ran down a slope, couldn't stop, and rolled down. People resting in the fields heard Kim's shouts, set up a cart to stop him, and he rolled right into it. Kim rushed So Baek-ho to the hospital, relieved to find he only had superficial injuries. So Baek-ho explained he minimized injuries by adjusting his position as he rolled. Kim explained the magpie, often near the institute because she had rescued it, occasionally attacks humans after hearing curses. She denied any responsibility. Before leaving, Kim asked if Wonhan Retail would keep the institute open. Despite modest results, everyone had been working hard. So Baek-ho said he saw their efforts and would let the institute continue operating, assuring Kim she could work in peace. After a tiring day, Kim returned home, recalled meeting her ex, and felt sad about her misfortunes compared to his success. Fortunately, With friends' support, she gradually came to terms with the events. The next day at work, the director announced he was fired, and Wonhan Retail would appoint a new director. Additionally, 3 members of the production management were also dismissed. Kim Mi-kyung remembered So Baek-ho's promise that the research institute would operate normally. Now, seeing people leave one after another, she felt deceived and more convinced that nothing good comes from anything related to Wonhan Retail. Agitated, Kim Mi-kyung opened the cabinet where she hid her cigarettes. Despite having quit for months, the urge to smoke surged at that moment. Just as she was about to light a cigarette, a sudden downpour began. Frustrated by the series of unfortunate events, she furiously threw a pillow and cursed the people from Wonhan Retail. After venting, she squatted helplessly in the rain. At that moment, So Baek-ho approached her and held an umbrella over her head. Kim Mi-kyung learned that So Baek-ho was not only the new director of the Potato Research Institute, but also the new tenant at her family's guest house. She, despising anyone from Wonhan Retail, ordered her brother to evict So Baek-ho. Her brother explained that the guest house business was struggling, and they finally had a guest. He had already spent So Baek-ho's room rent on a new dryer and couldn't afford to refund it and evict him. Kim Mi-kyung was helpless but not ready to give up. To regain some control, she set ground rules with So Baek-ho. Their cohabitation must remain a secret to avoid rumors, and though they are superior and subordinate at the institute, they must interact as equals at the guest house. So Baek-ho readily agreed to her terms. Kim Mi-kyung triumphantly returned to her room, where her friend, a novelist, had already imagined a romantic comedy developing between her and So Baek-ho. They would fall in love through their arguments. Unconcerned, Kim Mi-kyung's friend showed her photos proving that all the boys she liked from elementary school to university had Ho in their names, suggesting So Baek-ho was her destined partner. The main character in her favorite romance novel corresponded to director So Baek-ho. Kim Mi-kyung laughed off the idea, insisting she would keep her distance from anyone associated with Wonhan Retail, and that a romantic relationship with So Baek-ho was impossible. The next day, to get closer to everyone, So Baek-ho joined them for lunch at the cafeteria. Just as he sat down, the 3 team leaders responsible for growing potatoes entered and began spreading rumors about him being thrown down a hill. So Baek-ho stood up to greet them but was slapped back into his seat. During the conversation, the team leaders spoke so crudely that So Baek-ho spit out his soup in shock. Kim Mi-kyung, delivering takeaway coffee to the villagers, overheard them talking about the new director. She pretended to wipe away tears, expressing sorrow that the former director was dismissed to make room for someone else. The former director, known as the village's potato doctor, was well respected, and the villagers were outraged at his plight. They mobilized to confront So Baek-ho. Watching the villagers gather around So Baek-ho and an indifferent Kim Mi-kyung enjoying the scene, So Baek-ho realized he had fallen into Kim Mi-kyung's trap. The village chairman explained the rules. Anyone residing in the village for over 30 days is considered a temporary resident and must contribute to the village development fund. The village head then presented So Baek-ho with the agreement, asking him to sign and pay up. So Baek-ho didn't want to argue with those who didn't understand the law. He handed out a business card and asked them to contact his lawyer as the situation escalated. That evening, Kim Mi-kyung approached So Baek-ho to admit her mistake and offered to pay for the village development fund on his behalf. So Baek-ho firmly refused to compromise or let Kim pay for him, which angered the elderly residents. To punish So Baek-ho, the village chief blocked the road from the guest house to the institute. So Baek-ho argued that the road was national property, but the chief showed evidence that he had paid for it to help the villagers. So Baek-ho returned to the guest house for help, asking Kim Mi-kyung's brother to call a taxi since he couldn't find one on his phone. The brother informed him that taxis were rare due to the distance from the city. Kim guessed his car had been blocked and blamed him for not listening to her. Walking to the institute would take until the end of the workday. Seeing Kim leaving, So Baek-ho asked for a ride. She agreed but made him sit in the cargo bed of the pickup truck. So Baek-ho, like a fallen prince, resignedly sat in the truck. Kim, disliking his usual arrogance, deliberately drove over stones, shaking the truck and causing So Baek-ho to bounce and fall awkwardly. To find a better route, So Baek-ho studied a map and found a drivable mountain road. He didn't notice a sign warning of falling rocks, and soon returned home disheveled, having his car towed and asking Kim for another ride. Kim saw his condition and guessed what had happened. This time, So Baek-ho wanted to sit in the passenger seat, but it was broken, so he had to sit in the cargo bed again. Kim advised him to give in and pay, but So Baek-ho firmly refused and vowed to find a solution. The next morning, So Baek-ho got up early to catch a bus, but it drove past him with the village chief and others on board. Meanwhile, Kim Mi-kyung's brother went to a wedding and accidentally met her ex-boyfriend, who inquired about Kim. The brother inadvertently revealed that she was researching potatoes. The ex returned to his company and immediately checked the institute's staff list, confirming Kim's involvement. Kim received an urgent call that the fields of potatoes and chili peppers were infested with pests. The whole institute mobilized to spray and eradicate the pests. So Baek-ho came out to inquire what was happening and was pushed into the vehicle by Kim. Upon arrival, everyone suited up, except So Baek-ho, who leisurely sipped tea. Kim ordered him to gear up and join in. So Baek-ho admitted he hadn't done such work before. After a lecture from Kim, he reluctantly took the boots, but refused to wear the colorful protective suit. During the spraying, So Baek-ho kept one hand in his pocket and worked with the other, maintaining his stylish pose. So Baek-ho quickly got turned around and bumped into an employee, resulting in close contact. After they managed to stand up, he called out to the switch operator, explaining that the machine wasn't spraying the medicine. The operator, who was listening to music, saw the stop gesture and thought work was done, so he pressed a button that shut down the main equipment. The equipment automatically retracted the spray hose, which wrapped around So Baek-ho and pulled him down, dragging him on the ground. People frantically gestured, until the employee on the other side understood and quickly hit the switch to free him. After a brief rest, the muddy So Baek-ho went to shower. When he didn't come out for a while, the minister, worried he might have fainted, asked Kim Mi-kyung to check on him. Kim called out a few times with no response, just as So Baek-ho came out of the shower wearing a white shirt. The shirt revealed his muscular back, and the front buttons were not yet done up, exuding a sexy and alluring aura. Kim, who was particularly drawn to good looks, found her heart racing. She immediately imagined So Baek-ho as the sexy boss, the main character of her novel, and remembered her friend's words that she was destined to fall in love with him. Shaking her head in disbelief, she calmly asked So Baek-ho to join the others. To promote team unity, So Baek-ho falsely claimed he could handle his alcohol well, but quickly became drunk. Kim Mi-kyung also had some drinks and had to call a designated driver to take the car back. She and So Baek-ho sat in the back, with So Baek-ho drowsily leaning on her shoulder. Worried she might do something rash facing his handsome face, she covered So Baek-ho's head with a raincoat. Woken up by the driver, Kim Mi-kyung found herself cuddling with So Baek-ho. She tried to wake him but was mesmerized by his handsome face and slowly leaned in. Just then, So Baek-ho suddenly opened his eyes. Unable to tell if she was dazzled by his looks or affected by the alcohol, Kim saw So Baek-ho as the sexy boss at that moment, and she impulsively kissed him.